Okay, hi everybody. My name is Eric Tang, and I'm the co-founder and CTO at Livepeer. Before I get started, I'm just curious, show of hands, how many people have heard about Livepeer or know kind of what it does? Okay, about half. Okay, great. So let me do just like a really high level introduction to Livepeer and tell you a little bit about what we're talking about here today, right? So Livepeer is a decentralized video streaming infrastructure project, and we've been working on it for about 5 years. Um, it, um, it, it allows any Web3 developer to build a video streaming application. So if you want to build a Web3 version of a YouTube or a Twitch, something like that, you can use Livepeer. And Livepeer itself is a decentralized network, and at the same time, it also integrates with other decentralized infrastructure that allows you to, for example, control the video streaming behavior using the blockchain in the Livepeer network. So, um, but today, the talk is not only about Livepeer. The talk is really about building the killer Web3 consumer app, right? And personally, I've been thinking about this problem for a long time. And so a little bit of background personally. Before I got into Web3, I worked on a company called Wildcard. Wildcard was a kind of a social app, a content application. It was one of the top apps in the App Store back in 2015. And Wildcard was built on top of the open APIs on Twitter, Facebook, and all these other platforms that were also emerging at the time, especially on mobile. But over time, these platforms started to close up their APIs. So that really impacted impacted Wildcard as a company and as a business, right? So ever since then, I've really been thinking about how exactly can we actually build open applications on open infrastructure that helps us solve this like platform risk as developers, right? And that was one of the reasons that really drew me into Web3. It's because you can now build on top of Ethereum, and the Ethereum API is not going to change, and no one is going to tell you not to build anything because anybody can build in this permissionless decentralized world, and that's what's most exciting for me. However, we all know that we're still pretty early in the Web3 journey in terms of building consumer-facing applications, right? And that are actually really scale like the next TikTok. However, I have a pretty strong personal conviction that that's going to happen very soon. And when we have the Web3 TikTok, it's going to be 10 times bigger than TikTok, and it's going to happen 10 times faster than TikTok. And one of the biggest reasons is that there's now no centralized party that can be the kind of the gatekeeper for people to adopt these new applications. So they'll just emerge very, very quickly and grow very quickly as well. So today I want to lay out some thesis and kind of tactics on how can we actually start to approach building these types of decentralized and consumer-facing application that actually have consumer scale and have like consumer appeal. And to talk about that, let's first look at what's happening in the Web2 consumer world. And this is a graph that I often use. It shows the growth of online advertising revenue in the last 20 years. And what we've seen is that in a very short span of time, it's grown by 25x. Right, this is quite astounding. Back into 2000s, when it was 8 billion. Today is 190 billion last year, right? And you might think that like more revenue must be good, but this revenue actually comes at a cost, right? And the cost is that the online advertising model is working too well, and and the problem is and because of that, every platform, every consumer app that we use is looking at this same model, right? Every consumer app is trying to monetize using the same online advertising model. And when that happens, we start to get into this problem of the online advertising model actually driving these consumer applications as businesses. And we start to get into this world of surveillance capitalism, right? Where all of our data, every single click on the net, online is being tracked and bundled up and sold to advertisers for our attention, right? And every single consumer platform that we use is optimizing and optimizing for keeping our attention for as long as possible in order to show more ads and grow the business, right? And that's how this curve happens, right? The more attention we as consumer are kept on these platform, the more revenue is there, right? So that becomes the challenge and also the opportunity for Web3, right? Which is how do we break that model and find alternative models to start to approach this problem from a different way and still make things very interesting and engaging for consumers. And people have been trying this since the beginning of Web3, right? So I'm listing out some of the old applications that have been around. How many people have heard of Steemit or have used Steemit? Okay. What about Peepith? Anybody knows Peepith? What about Peppo? Okay. So Steemit is kind of the one of the early social apps in Web3 that's very similar to Reddit, I would say. Peepith was probably the very first Web3 Twitter. Or you can, you would pay like 0.25 ETH to post post a tweet on Ethereum. And then Peppo was the very first experiment around kind of like a Web3 TikTok, right, built for communities. And these applications all succeeded in different ways and failed in different ways. Steam was actually one of the more successful examples. And there were some problems with the incentive mechanism in the Steemit platform where it started to become more of like a echo chamber that just pumped the Steemit token. But nevertheless, it actually over time had a lot of adoption. So in order for us to move past this phase of Web3, this old phase of Web3 consumer apps and moving to the new phase, I think what we need to start really looking at is how to stop building the Web3 version of the Web2 app, right? So we're not talking about building Web3 YouTube or Web3 Twitter or whatever, right? Like that's going to be problematic because these existing social applications already have this really strong network effect and this moat that they've built, right? So and they've really optimized to make sure that their competitors are not going to be able to compete with them. So in order to start attacking that problem, we need to look at what are the unique values that Web3 actually presents. And for me, there's really 4 things that has been proven out that in Web3 that is unique and has already adoption, right? The first one is permissionless crowdfunding. Second one is decentralized financial instruments on-chain, being able to do exchanges. Third one is provable digital ownership. And the fourth one is collective global coordination. Right? So if we kind of put these four value propositions into their acronyms, the first one is really ICOs, right? Permissionless crowdfunding. We're able to kind of do capital formation on the blockchain. Decentralized financial instruments is DeFi. I think we're all pretty familiar with that. You can start to build lending protocols or exchanges and things like that. Provable ownership first gives us this unique building block of NFTs, right? So now they're still kind of JPEGs, but really if you look underneath, it's a reference point to any digital link, right? And we're starting to see all these different use cases that comes with NFT, but it is all rooted in the fact that you can provably show that you own this NFT, right? And the DAOs we're starting to see there are global communities that are forming. They're starting to have their own missions. They start to organize themselves differently. There are many interesting experiments like the Nouns DAO, where people, the communities are coming together across to really go after a specific mission. Right? So so if we look at all these different unique value propositions, the next question is, okay, how do we use those value propositions to actually compete with a existing Web2 platform, right? Well, there's this old fable in Silicon Valley. I think it comes from Chris Dixon from A16Z, and it goes, right, come for the tools and stay for the network, right? So what does that mean? It means we first need to build an application that provides some core value for a set of users, and then those users come, and then you start to be able to build the network effect. Some examples may include like Instagram, for example. At the very beginning, it was a tool for people to add filters on their photos, right? And that became a very unique value prop. And then as people came in, Instagram implemented the follow mechanisms, right? So people can start following each other, and they start to build this social graph, right? So come for the tool and stay for the network is an important lesson for Web3 applications where we think about building something. And the other thing that's interesting to think about is using these existing Web2 platforms as distribution channels, because there's already all these users on those platforms, right? So you can actually build your application in a way that bootstraps your own network effect on top of the existing social networks. So we're starting to see applications that really lean into Twitter, for example, allowing their users to post tweets inside Twitter that then drive that with links that drive Twitter users over to their application, right? So if you look at it from in marketing terms, you can really treat these Web2 platforms as the top of the funnel, and then start to drive your users down to the bottom of the funnel where you can continue to convert them, right? An example would be if you're minting NFTs, right? You can think of the NFTs as the canonical representation of a piece of content. In that case, people say like, oh, you can like right click and copy and pay, and save the NFTs, right? But that's actually the best thing for the NFT, because the more people save it, the more people copy it around the web, the more valuable that NFT becomes, and that's actually what you want, right? It's having as many people post these NFTs on other social platforms as possible, so that the canonical representation of the image actually becomes more valuable. So that's a strategy and tactic to think about. So when we talk about come for the tools and stay for the network, right? These tools need to solve a problem. What are some of the problems that are in Web3 today that we can actually solve, right? Here are some examples. One is DAOs need a place to organize their content, right? We have all these decentralized organizations that are popping up, and I think it's only going to accelerate, because it's just so much easier to create a DAO and get a group of people to start working towards a mission than needing to like form a company, right, or form an organization. So DAOs are kind of now the quintessential internet native way to get a group of people together and work on something. But all of these DAOs are now very fragmented, right? They use Discord for their community management. They use YouTube for putting their content around, right? They really need one place to actually organize their content. And I think the first application that cracks that is going to get a lot of adoption in the Web3 ecosystem. The second problem I will point out is the fact that Web3 content today is still living at different places, right? We have these Web3 publications, CoinDesk, things like that. There's crypto Twitter, right? And if you think about crypto Twitter, it's really kind of like a wild west where people are selecting the people, their own people to follow. Twitter was not created to be a Web3 tool. It just happened to kind of like stumbled into it, right? So so someone who solves the problem of curating Web3 content to make sure that when people can go to a single place to look at the best content for their specific interest, I think is going to have a lot of adoption in the Web3 space, right? Because it's solving a real problem for the Web3 consumers today that are looking for high quality content but not knowing how to get there. Right? The third thing I want to point out is incentivizing content creation. I think that's something that's really unique for the Web3, in the Web3 ecosystem, right? Because until now, if you want to create content, if you want to be a content creator, you need to do it for free, right? In fact, if you want, for example, today, if you want to start to become a YouTuber, usually you need to consistently create content, at least on a weekly basis for a year and a half, until you build up a big enough audience to be able to start monetize that. That is a long time. That is a long time for someone to work for free to create quality content for YouTube in order to start monetizing any of that. Web3 actually solves that problem, right? Because there's this token mechanisms that you can start to build into an application that starts to draw creators from day one and start to compensate them for their work from day one. So to make that more concrete, I think building a Web3 Zoom is something that's unique. All of the DAOs, right? They're doing these Zoom calls. Zoom is not created for Web3. It's actually a very concrete experience right now. There are some applications that are already working on this, and I'm going to give some examples later. Building a Web3 native video CMS. So again, to solve that video fragmentation problem, right? So people are posting their videos on maybe on YouTube channels, maybe on Mirror, right? Being able to having a decentralized organization to be able to kind of organize all of their content into a Web3 native CMS can be a really powerful tool. And the other solution or the other opportunity is a curation DAO. And the idea of a curation DAO is to have a group of people who are incentivized not to create content, but to put together the best content, right? You can use different types of metrics to start to track who is performing well in a DAO, but having a group of people paying attention and actually contributing to the curation of Web3 content can be a really powerful thing. And if you think about it, a lot of Web2 platforms actually behind the scenes use a lot of curators. So Spotify is a perfect example where all the playlists, the most popular playlists in Spotify are actually curated by people, right? Spotify just creates a standardized interface for people to search search amongst those curations. And finally, when creating tools for that targets creators, which a lot of times, consumer applications really about content discovery and content consumption, right? So someone needs to be creating that content. There's a big number of creators that are now being underserved in today's prevailing applications like a YouTube or a Twitter, right? So targeting those creators who are, doing their 1.5 year content creation without getting paid, but a lot of times having really good idea and really high quality content. That's a good way to kind of pull creators into the Web3 ecosystem. So I want to show a couple of examples of applications that are already doing this to kind of illustrate this point. HUDDLE 01 is a kind of a Web3 Zoom. They allow people to use their MetaMask wallet or their crypto identity to link to the application to have their identity as that. You can link your NFTs, right? You can have your NFTs, your avatar as NFTs, and they use Livepeer to make those streams become broadcasts, and so a big community can watch them. Right? LensTube is an example that's built on the Lens protocol. So they use the Lens protocol for social kind of social profiles. And right now, it still kind of looks like a YouTube, right? So it's still kind of in the early phase, but we're starting to see LensTube do slightly different things in the Web3 sphere. For example, offering paid content or offering people to have the ability to mint NFTs using these posts. In fact, every single post in LensTube or every single post on Lens is by default an NFT. Right? So that already captures the ownership of the video to and link that to the creator much more than what YouTube is able to do. Right? The 402 is a pretty good example of a live streaming application, maybe similar to your Twitch of the world. They currently focus on musicians, so musicians can come to the 402 and do live performances and sell tickets as NFTs. Right, they're already seeing really great success where the musicians are able to make hundreds or low thousands of dollars per show, where they would have to do that for a whole month on the Twitch in order to make that much. Beam is another example where you can, as DAOs or decentralized applications, you can do virtual events through Beam. Bonfire is one that allows the creator to connect directly with their fans. So if you're a creator, you would use Bonfire to create your own almost like fan club homepage. And Bonfire allows you to do things like NFT drops or do live streams to your community that are token gated, using new Web3 mechanisms for creators to really build their fan base and know that the creators can actually own their fan base, right? Because all of that is on the blockchain, and they can take their fan base to another application if they wanted to. Last example, StreamETH. This is a really cool collaboration that Livepeer did with the Ethereum Foundation, and it's open source and project and public good project where DEF CON, for example, was streamed using StreamETH, and DEF Connect earlier this year, ETH Berlin, a couple of kind of real world Web3 events are all streamed on this platform. Right? So you might notice all these examples are video based. Why do I talk about video based? Well, we're working on Livepeer, and the reason we think video is important for the Web3 space is, well, 80% of the content on the internet in general is video, right? So so at any given time, people are consuming lots of video content, and the reason is that video is the most engaging and most powerful medium of storytelling and communication. For any consumer application, the most viral, the most engaging content type by far is always video. So so if you think about the Web3 tech stack, we can see we have the blockchain base layer, and we have the scalability layer of L2, right? We have our storage layer like IPFS or Arweave. We have our index and query layer. We have our identity layer that that are wallets themselves, or things like Wallet Connect, and we can combine all those things together and build applications using video that take advantage of all of these different other components to build really powerful video, to build powerful Web3 video applications. So I want to give you a couple of examples of how this works inside Livepeer. The first thing I want to show you is the ability to upload videos, right? So all of this is available as APIs. So, but also I'm just going to show you the dashboard here real quickly. So here, for example, I can upload any asset. I'm not going to upload an asset right now because it takes time. But this is an asset that I've already uploaded before, right? So, I can play it here. But more importantly, these video assets can be exported into IPFS, right? So if you're minting an NFT, you can use this video asset. However, there's a problem, right? And the problem is if you're creating so this is, I'm trying to load the video from IPFS. It might work okay, because I'm on like high bandwidth connection, right? But if I'm streaming this video file directly on my mobile phone or something, IPFS doesn't really have the ability to make the video streamable at scale, right? So instead, I can do it through Livepeer and still use the same IPFS hash, and I can just load it into from Livepeer. And when I do this, Livepeer under the hood transcodes the video into HLS, and it's able to stream that video in many different bit rates and formats, so that anybody from anywhere around the world is able to stream that video on any device. Right? And so it's an example of using this video layer that plugs into all the other blockchain components, so that allows you to mint an video-based NFT, allows you to make that NFT actually streamable across the world, right? And that's, for example, this is what LensTube uses to make their user experience as good as a YouTube. Right? Another example I want to show you quickly is the live streaming experience, the live streaming API. So now I'm going to interact with the API. So what I'm doing here is I just created a live stream, right? And now what I can do is I can start to stream. I can send a video live stream in there. We created this testing tool that that will send a test stream right away, because in this room there are tons of hackers sharing the same Wi-Fi, and you can't always get the video stream going. But I just sent a test stream, so now I can see that it's live in here. In fact, the other thing that I can do is I can use the Livepeer video player to directly watch the video. Now this is a puppy video, so it's about 10 minutes long. Now anyone can create a live stream, right? So this is all working, but to kind of illustrate another point of building your application alongside of a Web2 app, now you can start to say, you know what, I want my live stream to also be restreamed into a YouTube, right, or into a Twitter or into a Twitch, to get more audience to come, right? In fact, this is what the DevCon organizers did. In DevCon, we streamed the live stream on both the DevCon homepage and on YouTube. So at the end, there was about 40% of the people who watched the video on Livepeer, and about 60% of the people who watched the video on YouTube. So now we have a decentralized infrastructure that can stream in a decentralized way, but also leverage the existing social platform to be able to drive the eyeballs. Right? Cool. Let me go back to the last bit. So for this hackathon, we have $10,000 of prize. First place is 5,000, second place is 3,000, and third place is 2,000. We really want to see some interesting applications that use video as a hook for consumers, right? So video-based NFTs or live streaming-based video NFTs. There's some prior arts. If you search the ETHGlobal hackathon, you'll find them. Decentralized video messaging applications or video tools for DAOs or Web3 communities. There's some high-level ideas. And our team is here, and so you can come find us in the booth. We have interesting. We have a hacker quick start guide to help you get started. You can join the community here. I want to specifically point out livepeerjs.org, which is a new developer SDK that we created. That's inspired by WAGMI, if you're familiar with kind of the Ethereum world. So it's very easy to get started building application using Livepeer.js. Thank you very much.